Hey, how's it going, guys? Today we're going to go over models, the ORM, and caching queries. Before we get started, just go to your PowerShell or your shell, run composer show-i, and make sure you're running models 0.1.6 or above. Okay, so first we're going to set up our database connection. So if we just go to our config file, config, you'll see we have database username and password. For now, we're just going to go over tutorial, and tutorial for the password as well. So let's now go to our app and start making our models. So a model in Mira is just a table name. So if we go to our database, we'll have a database called content with two tables, author and posts. So authors is just a aggregate of authors, and posts is just an aggregate of posts. So let's go ahead and make an authors and post model. It's really as simple as saying class posts extends model, and we're going to need a database here. So we'll just say public database is equal to content. So this will be your default database. Whenever you instantiate this, it'll just say new posts, and running that, it'll default to this database. Or you can instantiate a database when you call it, or if you want to switch the database, say you want to have a table inside a new database, you could say set database and throw a content in here, or a content too, to change the database of that table or that model. So let's go ahead and create a authors, and this will have the same database. Okay, awesome. So now if we go to our config file, we'll have to add these models to the config file to make sure that Mira knows to look for them. So let's start using them. So let's go to our routes file, and we have a route here. So if we say posts is equal to new posts, and let's just print out the results. So print r posts, and we could say all, and that'll get all the results. So let's go ahead and refresh, and we see we have an array of all the results, and we can loop over it and do what we need. So in addition to all, we have filter. So let's just put a line break here. We'll do horizontal. And we could say print r posts filter. And we could say where ID is equal to 1. And we'll see what that gives. Alright, so now we filtered it down to just one result where the ID right here is equal to 1. We can make this 5, and we'll now see, oh, there is no 5. So we can say 9. So let's go where it says 9, and there we go, ID 9. Now we could also use get, which will just get the first result that it finds. And it found the first one. So those are the 3 retrieving methods. Now a lot of the time you're not going to want to query every single time. So for that you're going to use caching. And caching is really easy. So if we go back and just remove all of this. So we just have the all. And let's break this up a little bit so we can see it. So we have this post all ORM query. If we wanted to cache it, all we have to do is add a cache, and we'll say for 5 seconds, and it'll cache that query for 5 seconds. and then once it's expired, it'll call from the database, and then it'll cache it for another 5 seconds. So let's go ahead and run that, and we should get the same thing. But now it's pulling from the cache. So if we go to our providers, and we go to cache, we'll see that we have that cache result. Now to prove that it's caching, I went ahead and I edited the source code to show whether it's from the database or not. So let's go ahead and refresh. And you see this is from the database, but if we refresh, it's not from the database anymore. It's now from the cache. And if we keep on clicking every 5 seconds, it'll go ahead and retrieve it from the database. So this is really good to take the load off of the database itself and make your sites really quick and responsive. Now we can cache this pretty much for however long we want. So if we go back to our routes file, we could say we want to cache this for 60 seconds. We could say for 60 minutes. We could say for 60 months. Or we could say for 60 days. Or even just for 60 hours. Or even just for 1 hour. So if we refresh, it'll now say from the database, but now for 1 hour, this query will be cached. And any queries after this that calls that same query, so this would be select all from posts, it will always grab the cache for exactly 1 hour. After that, it'll expire the cache, it'll remove it, and then it'll update it with the new cache. Now if we go ahead and remove that, and delete the cache for it, then it'll always be pulling from the database. Really, really powerful stuff. And really, really easy. For really simple queries, like if you want to pull from a users table, and you know that users only sign up 2 or 3 times a day, then you can go ahead and cache it for 30 minutes at a time. If you always put content out on the 1st of every month, then you can cache it for every 29 days. You can have a really, really fast and responsive website. Now, what's cool about this is that when you cache it for the first time, every single query on your entire site that queries that same query string will always pull from the cache. To prove that, let's go back to our route file, and let's cache this for 5 seconds. And now let's go ahead and pull this, and we'll just call this regularly. And let's add a line break. So let's go ahead and refresh. So this is pulled from the database, but any calls after that will pull from the cache. And we can refresh, and same thing, and we can refresh again. Now they're both pulling from the cache because it's within 5 seconds. Refresh. And now this is from the database, and all calls after that is from the cache, anywhere on the site. You could also insert data into the database using this ORM. Let's go back to our route file. Let's delete all this. And let's just get our field names. So we're going to insert a new title and a new author. So we could say posts set title, and we can make that equal to new title and posts set author, and we can make that equal to Joseph Mao. Let's just save it using the save method and refresh, and let's load up our posts again, and now we have a new entry row with new title and Joseph Mao. We could also update this. So if we go back, we could say update title is equal to newer title. Update author is equal to, we'll make it equal to John Smith. And we could just call update and give it a query. So it would be where ID is equal to 27. Let's go ahead and refresh and reload this. Now we have newer title by John Smith. We could also delete rows. So if we go back here, we could say posts delete, say where ID is equal to 27. And for security reasons, we have posts confirm. Let's go ahead and run this, and that should have deleted it. Now he's gone. So what confirm does is it limits it to one deletion. You could say delete all and confirm all, and that'll delete everything from the table. So one last thing, we can actually output JSON data if we want to create a RESTful API. So if we say posts JSON all, this will actually output JSON. And we just have to echo it. And we have JSON data. And we can do the same thing for a filter. So if we just want to filter it where the ID is equal to, and let's just get the ID, 26. D is equal to 26. Let's go ahead and refresh, and we'll get a JSON data with the ID of 26. So that pretty much wraps it up for the ORM and the models and caching. Caching is a really, really powerful feature, and even if something is pretty dynamic, you could cache it for 5, 10 seconds, 15 seconds at a time, and you could really take the load off your server. Alright, thanks guys, I'll see you next tutorial.